Libra. Welcome to Mary's Angel Tarot. This is a general reading for Libra Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. Okay, Libra, let's get started. You already know something is stirring. You can feel it in the way your thoughts have been circling back to the same unnamed place inside you, the way certain memories have been surfacing without invitation, the way your dreams have been carrying a texture and weight that ordinary dreams don't carry. Something is trying to reach you. Not from the outside, not from another person or a set of circumstances, but from the deepest intelligence that governs your existence. God, the universe, the divine, whatever name you hold sacred, is preparing to show you three things that have been hidden from your awareness. Not hidden because you weren't smart enough to find them. Not hidden because you weren't looking hard enough. Hidden because you weren't ready to see them until now. And the fact that you're here, drawn to this message by an impulse you might not even fully understand, tells me that the readiness has arrived. Something in your soul clicked into position, like a key turning in a lock. And now the door is about to swing open on things that will fundamentally alter the way you understand your own life. I want to be thoughtful about how I walk you through this, because what God is about to reveal to you isn't casual information. It's not trivia about your future or generic encouragement designed to make you feel temporarily better. These are deep truths. Ones that have been operating in your life for a long time without your conscious knowledge, shaping your experiences, influencing your decisions, and redirecting your path in ways you never would have suspected. When hidden things come to light, the initial experience is rarely comfortable. It's disorienting. It's the feeling of picking up a familiar object and discovering it's heavier than you remembered, or looking at a photograph you've seen 1,000 times and suddenly noticing a figure in the background you never saw before. The picture hasn't changed, your perception has. And perception shifts of this magnitude don't just inform you, they transform you. The first hidden thing God is going to show you is about a relationship. And before your mind starts racing through every connection in your life, trying to predict which one I'm talking about, I want you to slow down, breathe. Because this isn't about the relationship you're most anxious about. It's about the one you've overlooked. There is a connection in your life, one that exists in your peripheral vision rather than at the center of your attention. And this connection has been carrying a significance that neither you nor the other person has fully recognized. You've interacted with this person in what felt like ordinary ways. Casual conversations, shared spaces, brief intersections that seemed unremarkable at the time. But underneath those surface-level exchanges, something much deeper has been developing. A thread has been weaving itself between your energies, quietly and persistently, creating a bond that your conscious mind never registered, but that your soul has been investing in without your knowledge. What God is about to reveal about this relationship isn't necessarily romantic, although it could be. It's something more fundamental than that. This person carries a piece of information, a perspective, a resource, or a form of support that is directly connected to the next phase of your journey. They hold a key that you didn't know you needed because you didn't know the lock existed. And when God brings this connection into clear view, when you suddenly understand who this person really is to you and what their presence in your life actually means, you're going to feel a combination of surprise and inevitability. Surprise because you genuinely didn't see it coming. Inevitability because once you see it, it's going to seem so obvious that you'll wonder how you missed it. That's the nature of hidden things. They hide in plain sight, camouflaged by the ordinariness of daily life, waiting for the moment when your perception is refined enough to penetrate the disguise. I want to add a layer to this that I think is important. The reason this relationship was hidden from you isn't arbitrary. God concealed it because premature awareness would have distorted it. If you had recognized the significance of this connection earlier, your behavior toward this person would have changed. You might have become too intentional, too strategic, too careful in ways that would have introduced an artificial quality into something that needed to develop organically. The naturalness of your interactions, the very casualness that made you overlook the depth, was the condition that allowed the bond to form in its purest state. No performance, no agenda, no trying to be a certain version of yourself to impress or attract. Just two souls interacting authentically while something sacred grew between them in the soil of unawareness. That's divine craftsmanship. That's God engineering a connection in the only environment where it could reach its full potential, the environment of your not knowing. Now, the second hidden thing is more internal, and it's going to require a different kind of courage to receive. God is going to show you a truth about yourself that you've been avoiding, not a dark secret, not a shameful revelation, something more subtle and in some ways more challenging than either of those. You're going to be shown a capacity you have that you've been deliberately underusing, a strength you've been dimming, a dimension of your personality or your gift or your presence that you've been keeping at half power because operating at full power felt dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean physically. I mean socially, relationally. You learned at some point that being fully yourself, with all your intensity and depth and brilliance and strangeness, made certain people uncomfortable. It disrupted dynamics that others needed to remain stable. It asked questions that people around you weren't ready to answer, and so you calibrated. You found the setting that was just bright enough to be valued, but not so bright that it threatened. And you've been living at that setting for so long that you forgot it was a compromise. You started to believe it was your natural output. The revelation God is preparing on this front is going to feel like someone turning up a dial inside you that you didn't know existed. You're going to suddenly become aware of all the places in your life where you've been holding back, not out of humility, but out of fear. The meetings where you had the best idea in the room, but presented it tentatively so it could be easily dismissed if the reaction was unfavorable. The relationships where you performed a version of yourself that was palatable rather than authentic. The creative impulses you muted because their full expression would have been too raw, too unconventional, too much for the audience you imagined was watching. God is going to show you, with uncomfortable clarity, the difference between who you've been being and who you actually are. And that gap, once illuminated, cannot be unseen. It will demand a response, not immediately, not recklessly, but eventually and inevitably, because once you know you're living at half power, the full power starts pushing against its constraints with a force that intensifies over time until it can no longer be contained. I want to sit with this for a moment because there's an emotional complexity here that deserves space. Discovering that you've been living beneath your potential is not a simple or purely positive experience. It carries grief, genuine grief for the time spent dimmed, for the opportunities that passed through the hands of your smaller self that your larger self would have caught and held. For the relationships that didn't work because you were offering a partial version of yourself and wondering why the connection felt partial in return, that grief is valid. It's appropriate. And I don't want to rush past it with some platitude about how it's never too late because while it's true that it's never too late, it's also true that grief doesn't care about timelines. It cares about being felt. So when this revelation lands and you find yourself mourning the years of self-dimming, let the mourning happen. It's not a detour from the growth. It's part of it. The tears you shed for the person you could have been are the same tears that water the emergence of the person you're about to become. The third hidden thing God is going to show you is the most unexpected of all. And I've been circling it slowly because I wanted you to arrive at it with a certain level of openness that the first two revelations would naturally create. This third truth is about your suffering. Specifically, it's about a particular period of suffering in your life that you've carried as a wound, a source of bitterness or confusion or unresolved pain that you've never fully made peace with. You know the period I'm talking about. It's the one that visits you in quiet moments, the one that changed you in ways you sometimes resent. The one that, when you look back on it, still has the power to make your chest tighten and your jaw clench, because the sheer unfairness of what you went through has never been adequately acknowledged or resolved. God is about to show you what that suffering was actually doing, not what it looked like from the outside, not the narrative you've constructed around it to make it bearable. The actual spiritual mechanics of what was happening beneath the surface of your pain. And what you're going to see is going to rearrange your entire emotional relationship with that period of your life. Because the suffering wasn't random. It wasn't punitive. It wasn't the universe being indifferent to your pain. It was a process, a deliberate, purposeful, exquisitely calibrated process that was doing something to you at a level so deep that your conscious mind couldn't perceive it while it was happening. It was building something in you that could not have been built any other way. Not through ease, not through comfort, not through instruction or study or observation. Only through the direct, personal, embodied experience of enduring something that felt unbearable. I know this is a difficult thing to hear because it can sound like I'm saying your suffering was justified or that you should be grateful for it. And I want to be very clear that I'm not saying either of those things. What was done to you or what happened to you or what you lost, the pain of it was real and the injustice of it was real. I would never diminish that. What I'm saying is that God, operating within a reality that includes suffering without endorsing it, took what happened to you and used it as raw material for something extraordinary. Like an artist who works with broken glass, not because they shattered the glass, but because the shattered glass is what's available. And the mosaic they're creating requires exactly those jagged, irregular, imperfect pieces to achieve its beauty. Your suffering was the broken glass. What God built with it is the mosaic. And when you see the mosaic, when the third revelation lands and you suddenly perceive the structure that was being assembled from the fragments of your hardest days, you are going to understand something about your own life that reconciles the pain without dismissing it. Let me go deeper into what this reconciliation is going to feel like, because it's unlike any closure you've experienced before. Most of the closure you've found in life has been intellectual. You reasoned your way to acceptance. You told yourself stories that made the pain manageable. You created frameworks of meaning. Everything happens for a reason. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you draped them over the raw wound like bandages. And those frameworks helped they kept you functional. They kept you from being consumed by bitterness. But they didn't heal the wound. They covered it. And you can feel the difference, even now, between the covered wound and the uncovered wound. The covered wound is the one you can discuss calmly at dinner parties. The uncovered wound is the one that ambushes you in the shower, in the car, in the middle of the night when your defenses are down. The third revelation is going to heal, not just cover, that uncovered wound, not by making the pain retroactively okay, but by showing you the purpose with such vivid, undeniable clarity that the purpose and the pain integrate into a single, coherent truth that your body can finally process and release. There's something I need to say about the timing of these three revelations, because the timing is part of the message. God didn't choose to reveal these hidden things during a calm, uneventful period of your life. These revelations are arriving in the middle of everything else you're already navigating. The stress, the uncertainty, the open questions and unresolved situations and ongoing responsibilities that fill your waking hours. And that timing might seem inconvenient, but it's actually strategic. Because the revelations need the context of your current life to make full sense. They need the pressure you're currently under, the questions you're currently asking, the specific configuration of challenges and desires and fears that define your present moment. Without that context, the truths would be abstract, interesting but not actionable, illuminating but not transformative. It's the friction of your current life that gives the revelations their traction, the way a match needs a rough surface to ignite. God isn't revealing these things despite your current circumstances. God is revealing them because of your current circumstances. The pressure is the striking surface. The truth is the flame. I want to weave these three revelations together for a moment, because while they might seem like separate pieces of information, they are actually three facets of a single unified message. The hidden relationship, the suppressed capacity, and the purpose buried in your suffering are all connected by a common thread, and that thread is this. You have been living in a smaller version of your reality than the one that actually exists. Not because you're foolish or unaware, but because the full reality was too much to perceive all at once. God has been doling it out in portions, revealing only what you could handle at each stage of your development, the way a teacher introduces concepts in a sequence designed to build on each other. And now you've arrived at the stage where three major pieces of the larger picture can be shown to you simultaneously. The relationship reveals the support system you didn't know you had. The capacity reveals the power you didn't know you were withholding. The suffering reveals the foundation you didn't know was being built. Together, they paint a picture of a life that is far more purposeful, far more supported, and far more potent than anything you've been giving yourself credit for. Something about this moment is making me want to speak directly to a specific pain you're carrying right now. Not the historical suffering I mentioned earlier, something more immediate. There's a heaviness in your present that's been making it hard to believe in the kind of revelations I'm describing. You've been going through something recently that has tested your faith in whether the universe is actually benevolent or whether that's just a comforting story you've been telling yourself. The evidence in your daily life has seemed, at times, to contradict the idea that you're being guided or protected. Things haven't been going the way you'd hoped. Prayers have seemed to bounce off the ceiling. Efforts have yielded disproportionately small results. And in the gap between what you believe spiritually and what you're experiencing practically, a dangerous weed has started to grow, the thought that maybe you've been wrong about all of it. Maybe there is no plan. Maybe the suffering was just suffering. Maybe the coincidences were just coincidences. Maybe you're alone in a random universe and the meaning you've been finding has been nothing more than pattern recognition in the noise. I need to address that thought directly because it's more corrosive than you realize. It's not just a thought. It's an acid that, if left unattended, will slowly dissolve the spiritual foundation you've spent your entire life building. And the divine knows this. The divine is aware that your faith is under pressure right now, that the very capacity to receive revelation is being threatened by the accumulation of unanswered questions and unfulfilled expectations. That's another reason the timing of these revelations is now. They're not just informational, they're restorative. They're God's response to the crisis of faith that's been quietly building inside you. Each revelation is specifically designed to address one dimension of the doubt. The hidden relationship addresses the doubt that you're supported. The hidden capacity addresses the doubt that you're equipped. The hidden purpose in your suffering addresses the doubt that your life has meaning. 3 doubts, 3 revelations. The symmetry is not coincidental. Here on Mary's Angel Tarot, I want to take a moment to hold space for the part of you that is simply tired. Not tired of this message, tired of the effort it takes to maintain faith when the evidence seems thin. Tired of being the one who believes when believing feels like swimming upstream. Tired of holding a vision for your life that the mirror of your reality refuses to reflect. That tiredness is sacred even though it doesn't feel sacred. It's the tiredness of a soul that has been doing heavy spiritual labor without adequate rest or recognition. And I want you to know that God sees the tiredness, not as weakness, not as failure, not as evidence that you're doing something wrong, as the natural consequence of carrying something enormous through a world that doesn't always recognize what you're carrying. You've been bearing the weight of your own potential, your own purpose, your own becoming, and you've been bearing it mostly alone. That's about to change. Not because the weight gets lighter, but because you're about to discover how much more support has been available to you than you realized. Let me talk about preparation, because the title of this message urges you to get ready, and I want to be specific about what readiness looks like in this context. Readiness for revelation is not about doing more. It's not about meditating harder or praying longer or performing additional spiritual rituals. Readiness for what God is about to show you is a state of internal openness. It's the willingness to let your existing understanding of your life be incomplete. It's the humility to accept that there are things operating in your story that you haven't seen. It's the courage to face truths that might dismantle narratives you've relied on for comfort or stability. And perhaps most importantly, it's the trust that what's revealed will ultimately serve your highest good, even if the initial impact is destabilizing. Preparation also means creating moments of quiet, not hours, moments. Small pockets of stillness in your day where you're not consuming information or producing output or managing the logistics of your existence. Moments where your mind is unbusied enough to receive an impression that doesn't come through the usual channels of logic and analysis. Because these revelations are not going to arrive as thoughts you think. They're going to arrive as knowings that appear. The distinction is important. A thought is something your mind generates through processing. A knowing is something that lands in your awareness fully formed, without a traceable origin, carrying a weight and a certainty that thoughts rarely possess. You've experienced knowings before. They're the moments when you suddenly understood something without being able to explain how. They're the moments when clarity appeared not at the end of a chain of reasoning, but in the middle of an unrelated activity, as if it fell out of the sky and landed in your lap. That's how these 3 revelations are going to come. Not through study, not through analysis, through the quiet, sudden, almost startling experience of simply knowing something you didn't know a moment before. There's something else I want to prepare you for, and it's the physical sensation that sometimes accompanies spiritual revelation. When God reveals something hidden, your body often knows before your mind catches up. You might feel heat in your chest, a tingling along your arms, a pressure behind your eyes that isn't quite tears but is related to tears, a sudden and inexplicable acceleration of your heartbeat. These are not anxiety symptoms, although they can feel similar. They're the physical manifestation of energetic expansion, your body's way of accommodating information that exceeds the bandwidth of your usual mental processing. If these sensations arise in the coming days, don't resist them. Don't pathologize them. Recognize them as signals that the revelation is arriving and allow your body to do what it needs to do to integrate it. I want to bring something in now that I've been holding, and it's about the aftermath of revelation. After God shows you these 3 hidden things, there will be a period of recalibration. This is not a brief adjustment. It's a fundamental reorganization of how you relate to your life. The hidden relationship will change how you navigate your social world. The hidden capacity will change how you show up in your work, your creativity, your daily interactions. The hidden purpose in your suffering will change how you process not only the past, but every future challenge that arises. In short, you will not be the same person on the other side of these revelations that you are right now. And that's the point. God doesn't reveal hidden things for entertainment. God reveals hidden things for evolution. Each revelation is a step up on a staircase you didn't know you were climbing, and with each step, the view changes, the air changes, the perspective shifts in ways that make the previous view seem limited by comparison. There's a tenderness I'm feeling right now that I want to channel toward you directly. Wherever you are, whatever you're going through, however heavy the present moment feels, I want you to know that you are being looked after with a specificity and a devotion that would break your heart if you could fully perceive it. The 3 hidden things God is about to reveal are proof of that devotion. They are evidence that a force far greater than your individual awareness has been working on your behalf, arranging, protecting, preparing, and holding things in reserve for the exact moment when you would be ready to receive them. You are not an afterthought in the universe's plan. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are the subject of a divine attention so focused and so persistent that it has been tracking the precise development of your consciousness, waiting for the exact configuration of readiness that would allow these truths to land where they need to land and do what they need to do. Something that doesn't happen every day is about to happen in yours. Not because you earned it through perfect behavior. Not because you passed some spiritual test with a high enough score. But because the timing converged. Your readiness met the universe's readiness. Your need met God's response. And in that meeting, in that sacred intersection of human longing and divine provision, something extraordinary is about to be born. Not outside you, inside you. In the quiet, private, impossibly intimate space where your soul does its most important work. Get ready, not by doing more, by opening more, by trusting more, by letting go of the need to understand everything before you believe it. The 3 hidden things are already moving toward you. They've been moving toward you for longer than you know. And when they arrive, when the veil lifts and you see what has been operating just beneath the surface of your conscious awareness this entire time, you are going to realize something that will change you forever. You were never as alone as you felt. You were never as limited as you believed. And the suffering you endured was never, not for a single moment, without purpose. Let all of that settle in. Let it take root in the soil of your awareness. And when the revelations come, receive them the way the earth receives rain, openly, gratefully, and with the quiet confidence that what's being given is exactly what was needed. All right, thank you so much for watching Mary's Angel Tarot. Take care of your energy, and I'll see you in the next reading. Bye.